Hey everyone, Felipe here. Welcome to another Tower of Saviors card review video. In this video, I'll be taking a look at the non-jackpot cards from the My Hero Academia collaboration seal and letting you know my opinions about their active skills. Let's begin with Uraraka Ochako, which is a Earth human card and has dual active skills both at cooldown 6. The first active skill will be to explode two types of runestones, and you get to choose the two types of runestones by tapping on the magic circle of elements, as well as exploding petrified runes. For each runestone exploded, a non-attributive damage of 50,000 will be dealt to all enemies to the max of 30 damages for 30 runes exploded. If the leader is a member of UA High School, all cracked positions will be restored, which is pretty good in my opinion. I think this active skill is very useful in terms of utility as well as support. Restoring cracked runes is pretty useful and very limited in terms of cards that can do it, so being able to do that is pretty useful in my opinion. Additionally, exploding two types of runestones of your own choice is also going to be really powerful because it allows you to explode debuffed runestones or runestones that you don't want to dissolve. For example, if you have a combo nullifying enemy skill, or if you have like a Trojan attack enemy skill. So overall, I do think this skill is pretty good, and CD6 is pretty standard, so definitely a good skill to have. She also has a second active skill, where she will generate one enchanted rune of each attribute, or convert one enchanted rune of each attribute, which will allow you to break Quintet Elemental Shield the normal way. And for 2 rounds, if the character and library members of UA high schools will get a ×3 attack boost. So in my opinion, this second active skill is more of a support to buff your main damage dealer. For example, if you put him next to Midoriya or Bakugo, etc. Since they have self-attack increasing skills, then being able to put Uraraka next to them will give you a further ×3 attack bonus, which will definitely destroy your enemies pretty easily. So overall, I do think she is a pretty good card to have. Definitely a good support to have, especially if you're running a UA high school leader in this patch. Moving on, we have Asui Tsuyu, who is a water human card with a CD8 skill, and the following effect. Unlimited runestone movement in 12 seconds without dissolving, so a 12-second time tunnel, will stun all enemies for 1 round, and turn runestone's touch while moving into heart runes. So this is going to be a similar skill to Sana, where you have a time tunnel and every rune that you touch will be converted into heart runes. However, if you lift up, the second time you start moving, you will not convert the runes. So this gives you a lot of flexibility in terms of which runes to convert, and definitely control how many runestones you generate on your board. Being able to stun enemies is also really powerful, because if Madhead ever decides to introduce a stun shield, which I think they might have implemented it once before, there aren't that many cards that can stun enemies. Most of them are freeze, ignite, petrify. Stun is pretty rare, so having a card that can help stun is going to be pretty useful as well. So Asui Tsuyu, definitely a good card to have as well. Next we have Shinzo Hitoshi, which is a dark human with a CD9 skill, and the following effect. This gives a skill CD reduction of -2 to members of UA High School, and a skill EP plus 10 of members to UA High School. Allows you to hypnotize all enemies and alter their attribute into dark for 3 rounds, and while the effect is in play, attack of enemies will be lowered to 0, and by dissolving runestones of the character's attribute in the first batch, the enemies will wake up at the end of the round. So basically, you are able to hypnotize enemies for 3 rounds as long as you don't dissolve dark runes in the first batch, which should be pretty easily by stacking runes, and you don't have to worry about Skydrop, since that will you will still be okay. I do think he is going to be pretty good for a Midoriya team, because he will give a EP plus 10, and if you watch my other video, you've probably known that Midoriya has a EP generation problem, so definitely giving him plus 10 EP is going to be pretty good, However, CD9 is pretty slow for EP regeneration. CD9 is pretty standard for a hypnosis or crowd control skill, so definitely the hypnotize is going to be pretty useful, but CD9 is really slow for the EP generation. So I would say the first effect is just a nice bonus, and you should only use Shinzo Hitoshi as a crowd control and to hypnotize enemies for 3 rounds. Hypnotize is also pretty rare, so if Madhead ever decides to introduce a Hypnotize shield, then Shinzo Hitoshi could be a pretty good alternative or pretty good option for you to counter those enemies. For now, we don't really see that very often, so having him in your team might not hurt, but as of now, you don't really necessarily need him. Being able to lower the enemy's attack to 0 while the enemies are in play is going to be pretty good. However, if they're hypnotized, they shouldn't attack you unless they counter attack you, which means that yeah, I do think Shinzo is going to be pretty good. CD9 pretty standard for crowd control, but still a pretty long cooldown, and definitely something that you could use something else like Sandman or things like that that can also help you crowd control. So if you have other cards that can do the same as Shinzo, then not super necessary. But if you're a new player, then he is definitely good to have in your inventory, just in case something Madhead introduces an annoying enemy in the future. Next we have Kirishima Egiro, which is a fire human card. It's a CD6 skill and has the following effect. The outermost runestones will be converted into fire runes, and for 2 rounds, damage received will be decreased by 80%. And Bakugo and Kirishima will get a 2.5 attack bonus, and damage will be dealt regardless of defense. Kirishima's active skill is actually pretty simple. Not that much utility. It gives you defense breaking capabilities, especially for a Bakugo team, since Bakugo does struggle a little bit with shield breaking. So being able to get an additional utility that allows you to break defense is going to be pretty good, as well as increasing your attack by 2.5, since Bakugo also, his playstyle is to generate a lot of self attack multipliers via blast elements. A 2.5 attack increase will also be pretty useful for him. That being said, Kirishima also has a lot of bonding skills and team skills with Bakugo, so if you are planning on running a Bakugo team, definitely try and get your Kirishima for the bonding skills and the team skills that they have together. He does also have a pretty good leader skill, not as good as the 3 jackpot cards, but definitely something that is worth considering if you're an oldie and want to try new teams just for fun, and just for fun. If you want to run a Kirishima leader, that would be good as well. Lastly, we do have Iida Tenya, who is a light human card with a CD5 skill and has the following effect. For 1 round, runestone movement will not be stopped whenever you touch electrified runes, and the first 10 runestones touched will be turned into runestones of the leader attribute. By moving with the character's character runestone, the first 10 runestones will be turned into runestones of the character's attribute. So basically, this skill will allow you to generate a lot of attacking runes, 10, specifically 10 attacking runes, depending whether you are running a light member or basically any leader. He will generate 10 attacking runes for you, and also counter electrified runes in the board, so it allows you to have a better time spinning against enemies that electrify the board. CD5 is pretty fast, which makes sense because this guy is the fast one, and CD5 is pretty good to generate attacking runes. However, I do feel like he is a little bit more weak because there are already a lot of cards that can do what he does better. Countering electrified runes, I do believe it's easier to explode them rather than just having to dissolve them yourself. But being able to move through them is pretty useful, but exploding them is better because you just straight up get rid of them. So being able to... There are many other cards in the game that can counter electrified runes better, and you can also generate attacking runes in a better way. And for UA high school members, none of them really struggle with generating attacking runes, which means that you don't really need this for a UA high school team for the My Hero Academia playstyle. He might come into play later on in the future with different light teams or light human teams, since Madhead does love their light humans. So as a light human, he might see some play in the future, but for now, I do think he is going to be one of the weaker non-jackpot cards. But yeah, that brings me to the last non-jackpot card from this patch, and overall, I do think they're all pretty nice. They all satisfy some specific usage. Both in my ranking would be Uraraka first, since she has dual active skills, she has more flexibility and more utility. Next would be Tsuyu, since she has the time tunnel, and in my opinion, I love time tunnel, and it's one of the best skills in the game. Then Shinzo Hitoshi for the hypnotize and crowd control. Next, Kirishima, mostly because he pairs well with Bakugo and with the team skill and the bonding skills. So definitely want to get one if you're planning on playing a Bakugo team. And lastly, Iida, because like I said before, he is pretty easily replaceable by many of the other cards in the game. But yeah, that's all I wanted to say about these non-jackpot cards. Please let me know in the comment below if I said anything wrong or if I missed anything. And as always, stay tuned on my YouTube channel for more Tower of Saviors content. For now, stay safe, stay healthy, and I will see you next time. Bye everyone!